Meet the new Sony FX3, the latest model in the Sony cinema lineup, and a very interesting move from Sony. It sits below the FX6 in the lineup and is essentially an FX cinema style version of the A7S Mark III. It has the same 4K full frame sensor as the FX6 and the A7S Mark III, with Sony's Bionz XR processor, but inside this much smaller body style, which actually really reminds me of Sigma's FP camera, or maybe even the Blackmagic Pocket. Essentially though, it is a slightly squared off version of the A7S body. It's just slightly thicker because of the internal fan and has this removable top handle which replaces the EVF. This top handle has two full-size XLR inputs and offers a much more familiar and sturdy way to grip the camera if you're more used to cinema-style cameras than mirrorless ones. The top handle isn't the only video camera feature that Sony have added to this smaller form factor though. There are these 1/4 inch mounting points all the way around the body, which are great for securing the camera tightly into a cage or a gimbal or a drone. Plus you can add accessories directly on using them, or even mount the camera vertically if you need to for vertical video, which is handy, but you would end up blocking parts of the camera by doing that, and there's no vertical version of the menu, so it wouldn't be quite as elegant as the way Canon did it with the C70 for example, but it is there if you need it. One of my favourite touches on this new camera are the tally lights on the front and rear. You can turn these off of course, but if people around you need to know when you're recording, they're a very useful addition. There's also a zoom rocker on the front, but as it's a full frame camera, the only lenses that are going to really work with this right now are the 28-135 or the new 16-35mm Cine Servo lenses, which are quite large lenses and quite expensive lenses for such a small camera. So I reckon this zoom rocker will probably be used by most people for activating clear image zoom, which is very useful to have quick access to, just to get that quick little bit of extra reach whenever you need it. There's also S-Cinetone, which is Sony's new colour profile for quick turnaround work, which is fantastic to see in a camera like this. Apart from those new video features and the built-in fan to avoid any potential overheating, the FX3 has a lot in common with the A7S Mark III. It's built on the same foundation, so the same menu structure, the same image quality, same codec choices, same memory card slots that can use either CF Express Type A or SD cards, the same flip-out touchscreen. Plus it has the sensor stabilization, which is something which you don't get on the FX6, or pretty much any other cinema cameras for that matter. Because it uses the menu structure of the A7S as well, it's full of these nice little touches for video use. The autofocus tracking in particular is very easy to activate while you're using the camera, and the custom white balance mode is one of the best I've ever used. I really wish Sony had brought that white balance system to the FX6 and the FX9. Plus the autofocus system is here as well, with eye autofocus and full object tracking, and it uses the same FZ100 batteries. This really is a very similar camera to the A7S Mark III. You're basically just swapping out that EVF unit for the extra video features and ergonomics, like the top handle and the video focus buttons for example. So the big question with the FX3 for me is, where does this actually fit into the market? I mean, the A7S Mark III is an incredibly capable video camera, as we all know, and the FX6 is already essentially an A7S Mark III in a cinema style body, and it does a fantastic job at that with NDs, SDI, XLRs and established codecs. In comparison, the FX3, it isn't really a step up from the A7S Mark III in my opinion. But what it is instead is a fantastic alternative version of the A7S Mark III. This might be missing a few of the key features of the FX6, but it will still be an excellent video camera, just like the A7S Mark III is. It'll have the same strengths, the fantastic image quality, the superb low light, 4K 120 frames a second in all codecs, the low rolling shutter, the RAW output, the stabilized sensor. You just now have to choose what is the right tool for you and your work. Which are you going to end up using more? The EVF on the A7S Mark III or the collection of video features on the FX3? It's a tough decision, and it will really come down to personal preference for most people. But let's face it, whether you end up picking the A7S Mark III, the FX3 or the FX6, I mean, these are all going to be just fantastic workhorse cameras. Sony now have an extremely strong lineup to choose from. So, what do you think of the FX3? Let me know in the comment section down below, and if you want to buy one of these for yourself, then of course just head over to proev.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.